Tech Addicts, putting the ass in podcast. This week, a hub that looks like a Mac, the Omni 40 Plus, a new version of the T's made, California and its right to repair, Lenovo Android-based PCs, and a weird laptop. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. This is me, the Gareth, the host of the show, and this is him, the Ted, the co-host of the show. Ted, are you there?
I am here, and I am kind of well at the moment, enjoying the newly found autumnal feel to the climate, and I've got no complaints at all, well, apart from the usual, but we won't go into that.
Okay, well, you do like to complain. You frequently complain. You should hear him off air or prior to the show and after the show. Just be wall-to-wall complaints. He saves them up and then complains.
Yes.
But, yes, I think we should rejoice because I've never opened the podcast like that before.
No, you haven't.
In all my years.
Well, fan them.
Britches are being fanned currently. They don't need fanned. It's quite cold up here, actually. I'm starting to think I should have brought a cardigan with me.
Actually, there's a huge expanse of blue sky outside, and the sun is out here, so there's certainly not wintry weather. I mean, summery weather, but it looks summery. It's quite cold, but I don't know. Is it a blue expanse of sky there as well?
It is. Yes. It's really quite lovely looking out there, but I imagine that's going to make it very cold. The weather today does say that it's 10 degrees, and I was watching Claire Nazir before I left the bedroom this morning, and she was talking about the weather, but I find it very difficult because she's so lovely. I couldn't listen to her.
Who's Claire Nazir?
Oh, she does the Met Office.
Oh,
Lovely
right,
lady.
okay.
Yeah. My favourite weather person.
I watch the Met Office on YouTube all the time as a default, but I can't. That name doesn't ring a bell. But I should look out for her now.
Well, yes, you should. She's the pretty one.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure they're all very pretty. I just never noticed the other ones. Right. Okay. Yeah, we should maybe talk about tech. That's what people are tuning in for, not my weird fantasies about strange weather women online.
Oh, you know that little virtually invisible SanDisk 512 gigabyte ultra fit drive I was put into Bargain Basement last show? Well, I bought it, as I said I was doing, and it's really good. It's, as I say, it is almost invisible. It sticks out a tiny, weeny little bit, but it works like a charm. As soon as I plugged it in, it recognised it. Well, I did format it, but in my Windows laptop, and it just gives you another 0.5 terabyte in one of the USB ports. Really good idea, and it was so cheap at the time. I don't know how much it is now. Let's have a look. See if it's still on the cheap. No, it's gone back up to full price. Ha! Ha!
Oh, you got in there. You struck while the iron was hot.
I got it for just over 30 quid, I think it was, and it's now gone up to $59.99. Ha!
Well, see, to be honest, doing the preparation work for Bargain Basement this morning, I found that the deals were not particularly good today, and that is possibly because we are in the wake of Prime Day. Special
I think
season.
That's right, yeah. I noticed that as well. They've got to, at some point, make sure that the Prime Day thingies are special, haven't they? And if the whole time they're all special, then that wouldn't be special.
Quite right, yeah. Just double the prices of everything as soon as Prime Day is over.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that we haven't tracked down some specials, because there are some specials in the bargain basement. So you can sit and wait for, 6 hours or whatever, however long it takes us to get to the bargain basement, because there's lots in this show. It's jam-packed full of this, that, and I believe even, there it is there. The other. There
yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. And the other bit of feedback I had was that Dell Hub thingy, what's it called? Desk station, which was making my Stream Deck really laggy. Well, you were quite right. I took it away and put another one in its place, and as soon as I did that, the Stream Deck was working fine. And I reckon that Dell Hub thingy is just a bit wonky. I have noticed that on the front pad of on the front pad of the thing, there's a Qi charger, so you can put your phone on it and charge it. And whenever I put a phone on there to charge, the phone gets really, really hot. So I think that Dell Hub needs to be chucked away and written off to experience. It really is. I think it's a bit rubbish. So yes, That's the feedback.
Well, I'll come to that, because I have souped up my desk somewhat, moving things about. Having bought that Leviathan thing from Razer somewhat recently, I redesigned my desk to incorporate it, and then, because it turned out to be complete pants, I sent it back and put my Edifier speakers back in there, and how I missed those for the week that I didn't have them set up. So I took the time to redo my desk and bought a new armed screen holder arm thing. Yeah. What do you call them? Not stand. You attach it to it. Words. Why are words just so difficult to access from time to time?
Scissors.
They just. Yes, monitor scissors. Right. Okay. But one of those things that you really should stand with and make your screen stand up in front of you at an optimal level. And when doing that, I moved the Stream Deck from one side of the desk to the other. And it's on the left-hand side now, and I've hooked it into the wee USB hub on the back of the monitor.
Oh, yeah.
Because the monitor has one built in, and then it connects to the computer. But I have noticed that whenever I unlock my Windows PC and say I want to just smash that button for Starfield, I have to sit and wait for around about a minute for the Stream Deck to populate. It just sits there as if it's on standby. You know that the logo, the Stream Deck logo that comes up whenever your computer's locked?
Yeah.
It's like that. And I've never noticed that before.
That sounds
so I
like
think
the
it's
same
because,
problem that I had.
Yeah, you have to have this plugged directly into your machine. Yeah. So I now need to take apart the stand that I put this on, that has all the wires neatly put away, and take the wire for the Stream Deck out, which is a bit of a pain in the bottom.
When I was researching this problem, I went to some of the Elgato Reddit group, and they were saying that lots of people were saying that it does not like being in a hub. Plug it straight into your device, and it'll be fine. So I think that's probably what it is.
But I do like the back of my machine at the moment. I only have 3 USBs plugged into my machine, which is great. 2 hubs and something else that I can't remember.
But before I get accused of inconsistency there, as usual, the hub that I replaced it with, the Stream Deck works fine with. So I still say that there was something wrong with that Dell one, that it's not the same with other ones. And some hubs, the Stream Deck seems to work with some hubs okay, and not others. So anyway, sorry, back to your setup.
Well, it is possible your hub has taken the hump. You've got a humpy hub.
Yes.
Well, you'd expect the best from Dell, wouldn't you?
You would. Well, you used to, but I'm not sure now.
No. All right, well, moving into the hardline for the hardware before we start getting too waylaid with nonsense and crap. The first thing we're going to talk about, I've got a couple of little bits of gadge that I felt like resurrecting. Some gadgetry that has popped up here, there, and everywhere that I've taken a fancy to. And the first one is this thing from RayQ.
Oh, I've got one of those RayQ things. It's a little.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, it's a little dongle hub thingy. Talking about hubs, it's a USB-C dongle with about loads of connections all around it. And I've got one of those. It works very well.
Ah, right, okay. So you could replace the Dell one with that one.
Yeah, except that my mum's nicked it.
Okay. Well, you could march out today and buy one of these instead, because it's much cooler looking than I'm sure the one that you have. This is the RayQ Retro Multifunction Desk Essential. This looks like a good old-fashioned Macintosh, and it's a dock with a custom screen that complements your desk. The screen on it actually works, unlike so many of these other kind of gadgets and things that don't have, that try to pay homage to a retro device. This one actually has a screen that does stuff, and you can use it as like a digital frame or display stuff on it. And there's a speaker built into it as well, so it can be a Bluetooth speaker as well. So it has a bunch of other stuff rather than just being a USB hub. There is the device itself, which is the main sort of computer part that has two USB 3s on the front, a USB Type-C, and then a 3.5mm audio adapter. But then round the back, there's more. There's much, much more. There's a USB 3.0 and then two USB 2s. There's 3 HDMIs, a USB Type-C host, a DC 5.5 input, and then an RJ45 as well.
That is so cool.
Which all seems a wee bit much, because whenever you add on the keyboard that comes with it...
Keyboard?
The keyboard, yes, there's a little keyboard that sits in front of it that's wireless. Well, it's wired because it takes wires, I suppose, but it's not inherently connected directly to the hub unless you connect it directly to the hub. The front of the keyboard has a TransFlash SD card hole for regular SD and micro SD. Then there's two USB 3.0A on the front, and then round the back there's a PD 3.0 USB Type-C. There's another USB, one power delivery, one standard data delivery USB Type-C 3.0, and then an HDMI on the back of the Wii keyboard as well. So it really has bloody everything in it. The display, I think, is actually particularly interesting because you can have it showing pictures, or there's a clock that can run it, or you can have graphic equalizers whenever you're listening to music. There's a picture of a cassette playing with music coming out of the top. So it does a whole rake of stuff. And I did find the price when I saw it earlier.
$169. But that's the cheapest one. There seems to be a Pro model and a whole
which has
a whole set
the
model.
Keyboard.
Right, okay. Oh, okay. So the $169 is without the keyboard, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's $249 with the keyboard as well, which is the whole set.
Right, okay.
I think it's absolutely lovely, and I would, if this was that Whatever Works program, I'd say I want one of these. I can't buy it because it's just obscene.
Yeah.
But I do want one of these.
So cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just want one.
Yeah.
I want one as well. But no.
Well, I'm hoping that they're going, if this takes off, they will then follow it up with something else that might be a wee bit more in my wheelhouse to influence a purchase. Maybe if they had an IBM PS2 version of it that came along at a later date, or I'm
always concerned.
An Amstrad PC 1640.
I'm always concerned about devices like this, however, that have got USB inputs, well, any inputs on the front side, really, particularly USB ones, though. USB-A ports on the front, and probably USB-Cs as well. I get the 3.5mm audio, because you want to plug that in and out regularly, but, you know, having this on your desk, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 cables coming out the front of it, and then they've got to go back round, and it just looks a bit ugly. I think ones that have got everything on the back are probably an awful lot better, don't you?
Oh, no, I fully agree. This looks fantastic in the pictures because there's nothing connected to it.
Yeah.
And then whenever you see a couple of things connected to it, I missed off. There's actually an SD card, a micro SD card, on the front of the RayQ main,
looking like drives
thing. Yeah, where the 3.5 was. But where it's got stuff plugged into it, it's done in that studio setting where it all looks nice and neat.
Yeah.
But whenever you put it on your desk, you have a mess of cables, and you're actually using your desk. It's not going to look that good at all.
No.
It'll probably sit squint or hanging down the back of the desk because one of the cables just wasn't quite long enough, and you had to get it in there no matter what.
We're a pair of miserable gits, aren't we?
We are.
Taking this lovely idea and just ruining it.
Well, you have to talk yourself out of buying it, because I don't want to spend $250 right here, right now, to get 34% off, and it'll ship to me at that price.
Mind you, what you could do is put your unifier dongles and your 512 gigabyte invisible SanDisk. Those tiny little things could go in the front sockets, so they're not sticking out; they're just there. And use the ones on the back for the things that have got cables. Yeah, I've talked myself back into it.
Yes. Well, I think that's more for what the keyboard is for as well, where you can just hook it up and stick your USBs whenever you're on the go, and you've taken the pictures of the models, and you're getting home, and you whack it in there and bring the pictures up.
Yeah, very nice. Good find.
Oh, hang on a second. It's a 60 hertz display. 21 ports in total. Gosh.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of ports on it.
There certainly is. Yes, I would have one of those. If anyone wants to buy them for Ted and I to test out, then do get in touch, or just surprise us with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on that basis, I carried on with this to see if I could find something that was a wee bit similar, that might be a bit more logistically sensible. And I noticed OmniCharge. There's the Omni 40 Plus, which is a robust power station for you to use on your laptop and phones and all that kind of stuff. It says the Omni 40 Plus is equipped with a sleek and sophisticated design, engineered to be both compatible and robust in power. It's got a 38,400 milliamp hour battery, with a wealth of ports that you could use. A true game-changing power display, or power device.
It's a Toblerone.
It is. It's Toblerone shaped. It's designed to sit behind your laptop and be a laptop stand if you absolutely need it to be.
Oh, right.
Because you can prop up your laptop on top of it. It's got a 100-watt USB Type-C port on it. It's got an 18-watt USB Type-A port. It's got a 100-watt AC port and a 100-watt DC port as well. I believe there's a little screen on the front as well to be able to tell you where things are going, because this is all the rage.
Very anchor.
And I think this looks like a bit of a beast, to be honest. I really quite fancy one of these. And it comes in a wee case as well.
500 quid.
Well, you don't have to look at the price straight away.
Dear.
Yeah, it's quite expensive, and especially for what it is. There's 3 USB Type-Cs on the front and 2 USB Type-As. So, it's designed to be portable, I suppose, if anything.
Yeah.
But 500 quid for it, and that's reduced. It's going to be 683.
Oh, yeah.
But they've got it on sale.
They're not going to sell them at that price, surely. Blimey. Good grief.
But it's big, and it also doubles as a defense weapon. You can beat people with it because it's quite sizable.
Oh dear. That thing on the other end, away from the screen, is that 2 USBs, or is it an actual mains port? Is this can you plug...
It's a mains port,
It is,
yeah.
So presumably a British one, you'd get a 3-pin plug set up there, and you could just...
I would like to think... But this is UKOmnicharge.co that you can go to order one of these, and they don't show it with a UK plug.
No.
All the images have the US plug. But maybe the UK one has a big 3-pin UK plug in there.
Maybe it does. I know, it looks very nice. I like the Toblerone shape.
Yes, you could also hide it so as no one nicks it. No, someone would nick it if you put it in a Toblerone container.
Oh yeah, I've just seen it. A picture of it with propping up a laptop. I'd never thought of that. That's really clever, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
I would have one.
Yeah.
Which would you rather have, the Mac or this?
This, I think. Yeah. I think this is more sensible. And it's more expensive to sell when I get fed up with it.
And also you can protect yourself with it too.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. There's lots of pictures on the website, and it does look really nice, you're right. Omnicharge.
Aye. A nice looking device. Mm-hmm. All right, the last one I threw in here was actually, I think it was Radio 2 during the week. I heard Jeremy Vine talking about Teasmates and how people had them, and you could set an alarm by them to make you tea in the morning, and it would make the tea, then set off the alarm, and the tea would be ready for you. So I thought, well, there's got to be coffee machines that have alarm clocks built into them that are designed by the side of the bed. This is the society we live in. That's got to be a thing. And I came across this one, which is the Barisieur tea and coffee alarm clock. It's £350.
Wow.
It brews at 94 degrees C. It has induction heat, boiling vessel, quickly and efficiently while keeping the rest of the machine cool. So when you wake up in the morning going, oh, turn off the alarm, you don't stick your hand straight on the induction plate and burn your hand. That'll get you out of bed pretty quickly. It's got a Peltier cooled fridge that holds up to 2 to 3 servings of milk, and it keeps it cool for 24 hours, 7 days a week. So your electricity bill's going to love you. And each tray is machined from solid hardwoods and is hand polished. So, yeah.
Wood.
It's got wood on the top.
Yeah, the wood, the bit on the top is clearly a tray, which you lift up when it's done and serve to your bed partner and yourself between you. But from what you said, I thought you
don't have to serve to the bed partner because there's only one cup.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Oh, people living alone.
So they'll have to get their own.
Yeah. But I thought you were suggesting that the rest of it was made of wood as well, but I don't think it is it?
No, just the very top piece. The rest is proper paraphernalia.
It looks like a chemistry set, doesn't it?
It does. For people who take these sorts of things seriously, I'm surprised Eden Bell hasn't got one of these already.
Yeah, it looks like a chemistry set. It looks like you've walked onto the set of Breaking Bad and Walt is there doing what he does.
Yeah. Well, actually, I suppose Chris Kelly would probably have one of these. He's into his coffee machines, or he'll find fault with it. This is probably not as good if you do it in your bedroom or something like that. But watching the videos of it, I think it's quite fascinating, and I'd love to be able to have that brewing.
Yeah.
But the one thing about this is the cup is so small. I mean, I've got a French press that I use in the mornings, so I can have 2 or possibly even 3 cups of coffee while I'm getting ready for work. I can just keep knocking it back to get me out the door in the morning. This would just do one, and it's not like you can, unless you buy another glass, I suppose you could have one brewing whilst you're drinking one.
For the wealthy.
Yeah. For the single person who just doesn't have enough things to spend money on.
There must be a way of using it so it's not just one cup of coffee, that's it. There must be some way of, I don't know, put the tray back on it for your second cup or something, I don't know.
Well, you can brew 1 cup at a time. I suppose you could purchase yourself another cup or glass, because it seems to be a glass cup that they have here, and then have it, once you're having yours, you can have the other one brewing to give that to your bed partner, which is a weird way to put it, Ted. But
well, I was trying to avoid being sexist and being presumptuous. So.
But were you not saying Lady of the Night earlier on? Oldest profession in the world. Have to keep them going.
And also, I didn't want to be prejudiced against single people. You've got to be so careful these days, haven't you?
Yes. Well, I suppose we are saying that this is prejudiced against couples, if anything, because it is more designed for a single person, unless you buy 2 and have one for each side of the bed.
Yeah. In the old days, what was it called? The teas made, the Goblin's teas made, Goblin teas made. There was 2 cups in that, and then they brought out a coffee version called the Duo. I think it was called the Duo or the Duet or something. Morphy Riches, I think it was, and that had 2 cups at the front, and we had one of those, and that worked really nicely. But again, the cups were very small, I remember.
Was this you and your bed partner, or your mum and dad?
The Goblin Teas Made was back to mum and dad when I was a child. Yeah, that my memory of that is then. But the Duo, the coffee maker, was when I was an adult, and that was me with my bed partner of choice at the time.
Of choice, whoever happened to be there that day.
Those are the days.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll move on to a bit more of realistic news of things that you're actually going to be interested in, and that is that Google says that they have blocked the largest DDoS attack ever detected, and they're continuing to block it at the moment. An unnamed threat deployed a novel HTTP/2, which I think is HTTP divided by 2, technique dubbed Rapid Reset, based on stream multiplexing, which Google reliably explained. The stream multiplexing is a feature that is widely adopted, which of the widely adopted HTTP divided by 2 protocol. Sorry, I'm just making this because I haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
The interesting thing about this story, I think, is just being blown away with the numbers. That's why I posted it, was because of the can you imagine anything working at 398 million times per second, let alone DDoS attack requests on a presumably optical cables, and you know how fast it is that we have got used to getting Google search results, and how fast two-way, us talking now over Skype, and it's just working absolutely flawlessly. So we shouldn't probably be surprised, but nearly 400 million per second. That was just what blew me away. Apart from the fact that this story is saying that this is the biggest ever, and it's 7.5 times the previous one. But even the one before was amazing. So someone out there is being really, really clever with tech and knowing how it works and how they can do this stuff, aren't they?
Well, yes, and at the same time, Google are quite happily walking out going, look how damn secure we are compared to everyone else that's getting hacked at the moment. They're basically just playing let's measure stiffies right on. They've got the biggest, stiffest one out there.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I'm sure you're right. It's like they're dealing with it, and they've done it, and so their infrastructure to deal with it will be even more mind-blowing as to how their engineers have worked out how to not let this happen, and blah blah blah. It's just the speed of the digital data that is. I'm just flabbergasted always by how all this happens. And I'm reminded of that whenever I do a podcast, really, about how Skype works. Just amazing.
Well, it actually makes you think that, say, for example, this unnamed group of people who are doing this attack, if they were just to turn round and point their sights at something like the NHS, there's no way the NHS and their 386 Windows 95 running computers are ever going to be able to deal with this, unless, of course, they're using older technology that just isn't compatible with this new technology. You know, the way you can't use an old baud rate modem on telephone lines now. You can't use light guns on LCD displays. So that's the only thing that they maybe have working in their favour, is that they're so archaic that they are not targetable by these groups of pirates. But we have seen ways in which this happens. But this sounds more like it's just Google flexing their own muscles, going, look what we can defend.
Aren't we great?
Yeah. So someone's got to have the technology to be able to do 398 million requests per second. And I think the only people who might have that much is either Microsoft or Google.
Or Apple.
Maybe Apple.
It's almost an inside job.
Yeah, I reckon that's what it is. And it is just Google going, we've got a particularly good stiffy at the moment, come and measure it. Anyway, sorry, folks. Sorry.
Yes.
Right. California. What's California doing now?
They have passed into law the Right to Repair Act for, well, presumably for only California. They can't force everyone else to do it. But anything that is sold in California, it seems, has got any electrical device has got to comply with the following. If it's over $100 bought, you can imagine the things that are now $99, can't you? And they've got to offer 7 years support for spare parts, tools, and documentation. And that comes into effect from the middle of next year. If they're under $100, so all those $99 things, they don't get away with it. They've got to do it, but only for 3 years. So this is good news for consumers, and one of the reasons, no doubt, that Google got on board with the Pixel 8 saying, yeah, we're doing 7 years. Fairphone were already there, as we know, if we're talking about phones. But there's also the implications, which I'm sure you've probably already thought through, for smaller devices. You know, things that are, I don't know, a power bank that's 50 quid, or a just look around your room and think of a mouse, something, a keyboard, something that's under 100 quid, but they've got to then offer 3 years of support for it, and ways in which the person can repair it themselves with the given tools. So I think it's quite broad reaching, even though it's obviously aimed at phones and tablets and computers. But there's other stuff out there as well. Microwave ovens, for example. What are they going to do about that? Lots of those are under $100. So you've got to have the right to repair on everything, it seems.
Well, yeah. I think that's the first comment that someone's made here is that what about cars?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, which are increasingly becoming computers. Computers with wheels. So you need to be able to do that. You open up a BMW's engine and you cannot do anything there because it's all cordoned off. You've got to have specific tools that only BMW release to be able to open parts of the engine.
So that puts into question what they mean by electronic devices, doesn't it?
Yeah. And at what point is a car actually going to move from? Well, I suppose it would be categorized as a mechanical device, wouldn't it? Because it's mechanics.
I suppose so.
Into electrical. A Tesla, I'd say, has a lot more electronics in it than mechanics. Wouldn't it?
Well, yes. I think it's woolly, isn't it? It's not very clear about.
No, they don't use wool. It uses electricity. It's not a sheep. I know you live in Wales, and that might be your main method of transport.
But yeah, I guess it's a step in the right direction. But it would also make devices more expensive because people in production have got to then build the cost of all this into it. So it's very not surprising that the latest round of Pixel devices are even more expensive than they've ever been before.
Well, it works the other way around, where the research and development process does not have to spend as much time making sure that people can't do this, which is what the likes of Apple and various different computer makers deploy all the time to make sure that people aren't opening up their computers to be able to upgrade it themselves or to repair it themselves. So I think it should level off.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Maybe.
Yeah, good point. And using glue behind batteries that no one can possibly get out without a JCB. Yeah. Good point.
And hopefully this means they'll stop soldering RAM to motherboards in laptops and Chromebooks so you can actually go and upgrade it your bloody self.
Yeah, it really does depend on how they're defining electronic, doesn't it? Yeah. What the scope of that is. That they might actually spend most of the time in the next 2 years in court with people claiming that black is blue and wrong is right because they shouldn't comply and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And the person's the member of the Senate's name is Susan Eggman.
Nice.
I wonder if she's any relation to Dr. Robotnik from Sonic the Hedgehog. Sorry, folks, California. If you're listening in California, that's probably a really old joke or whatever, but it's news to us.
We have a listener in California.
We do, actually.
Hello.
Yes. I got a map a wee while ago and I was having a look around going, hoo-hoo, crikey. Because remember, we were like number one in...
Uganda.
Was it Uganda or something like that? I don't think we're number one anymore, but Malta is quite popular with us. Hello, Malta.
Hey.
I like your Popeye theme parky thing down by the shore. I've seen pictures. Right, game-changing digital cartridge is brought along so that you can start using your 35mm film cameras again. Ted, do take us through this because this seems like a pointless device.
Well, it depends how glued you are to the idea of using your SLR film camera forever. And having had some gorgeous film cameras in the past that I would absolutely want to keep using, like for example the Nikon F3. I loved my F3, and you can't buy anything like that anymore, but if you had one and it was still there, you might well decide to spend 600 or is it 700 quid on this, roughly 700 or 800. No, in fact it says the whole kit is $900. And it's basically this thing that you stick. You take the back of your, you open the back of your camera, and you put this cartridge in, it looks like a film cartridge, so it fits into the film slot, and coming out the side of it is a digital sensor, a 4:3. 4/3 20 megapixel micro sensor. So the point is that you can continue to use your camera, not use film, but use this to save and transfer the images and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth it out to wherever you want to put these images. So it turns a film camera into a digital camera. The trouble is that it comes across as a bit of like a Heath Robinson, really, because in order to make it work, not only have you got to do the aforementioned, but also there's no hook through to the proper shutter release. So you've got to use this shutter release that you stick on the back of your camera and use that one instead of the proper one. You've also got all the workings to make it all happen in this thing that looks like a film drive unit that you'd stick on the bottom. What are they called? Power.
Yeah, film drive.
Power drive. Whatever it's called. Those great big lumps that you put on the bottom of your camera traditionally to make the film be wound on very, very quickly. You take lots of shots in that way. So you've got this great big lump on the bottom of your camera. You've got this kind of Heath Robinson thing going on the back, and you've got this little cable that sticks out, and then you stick it on the back to actually press the shutter. Don't get me wrong, it's a wonderful idea that someone has thought about, but they must have pots of money to have developed this. I'm Back Film, it says, it's called, and it's an organisation, a group of people, presumably, rich people, that they can afford to make about 100 of these and sell them to real enthusiasts that want to keep using their old film, their film cameras. All great fun, but I just can't see it going anywhere. Can you?
No. I was on board with it, thinking that perhaps there was, I don't know, say some sort of memory card inside of the little yellow canister, and it saved it to the memory card. But then I noticed that you have to attach this huge
motor drive
chunk to the bottom of it. So there's that's it, motor drive. Yeah. So having your camera that you miss using so much in your hands is not going to feel anywhere like it because you're not using the controls, and you've got this big chunk at the bottom. It's it's attached to the shoe thread at the bottom, so it does hook on and stays there. But I think is that an LCD display or something on it too? Because I can see there's a fine bit of cabling that comes down and obviously plugs into it. But I'm wondering if
down the
that
bottom
carries
there.
video as well. Yeah, because if you look close at the picture of the back of this shoe that goes on, there is what might be an LCD display.
Yeah, maybe.
So I suppose you could argue it enhances it that way. And
yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? You can view your pictures on it. It puts a panel on the back. Yeah.
But then if you take the $900 and divide that by the price of which a 35mm film canister retails from now, you probably find that this would be, well, maybe it cost you about 10 rolls of film or something like that, given the price that they are now. I know my daughter looked into it, and it was ridiculously expensive for her to take pictures and get them developed.
Yeah.
And I think you did too, Ted, didn't you?
Yeah. A roll of film was typically, well, if you bought them in bulk, you could get them down to about 10, 11, 12 pounds, but buy one off and it was like 18, 19, 20 quid. And then you've got to have it processed, which you can still do, but it's going to go away eventually, isn't it? And, at the end of the day, it's like, well, for what? Do you want to print these photographs? Because the only logic for anyone wanting one of these is because, as I said at the outset, they really, really want to keep using their lovely old SLR cameras, and they'll do anything to make that happen. And this is for them.
And that it's not going to feel like it did whenever they did.
Well,
but I suppose it's a proof of concept. It can be revolutionised down to getting all of that technology that's at the bottom inside the film canister.
Yeah.
Microelectronics turning into nanoelectronics, and have it that way. That would make it perfect, aside from the button, which obviously you need to.
That's a bit
rework.
Crap. That's what actually turned me off of the whole idea. That I was kind of following along with it, getting on board with it. Yeah, that's good. And then I saw this cable and this shutter release glued on the back, and I thought, no, this is Heath Robinson. Anyway, nice idea.
Is it? Next up, I'm back. Are going to be doing retro heroin sets, and what you do is it comes with an elastic band and a syringe, and you can, if you were a heroin addict, you can relive your experiences on it without having to do heroin. Which
perfect.
Does that work?
What more could you want?
Absolutely, yes. Right, it's something less silly now, and that is Leica, the Sofort 2, which is a little pocketable smart camera that can go with you and take pictures on the go and be a backup to your SLR, which probably isn't going to work when you've got all those gubbins on it.
This does do film though. There you go. There's a film camera.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. This is
right.
It's like a Polaroid or a Fujifilm. And in actual fact, it uses Fujifilm film packs. So it's an instant camera made by Leica, appealing to those that like Leica and those with plenty of money. And they look really, really cute. You can use it if you want to. So much for my Do Not Disturb. This Pixel phone is obviously this Pixel watch is ignoring the command from the phone to be Do Not Disturb. Stupid thing. I'll have to look into the settings. Anyway, so for someone who wants to, print out little photographs like a Polaroid, which apparently the kids are wanting to do now, particularly in Japan and the Far East. You can also use it for storage, so it's got storage on board, and you can then send it out to printers or send it to your computer or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or whatever, and it's got the Leica brand, and it looks really, really nice, I have to say. I've got no interest at all in printing physical pictures, but apparently I'm in the minority. Well, no, not in the minority, but it's a growing trend that kids want to do this, and they stick all these little pictures all over their fridges and stuff. 350 quid, and it's available from November if anybody wants one. You can get it in red, white, or black. They do look cute. You've got to admit, haven't you?
Oh yeah, there'd be nothing better. I remember we went on that little escapade of buying old digital cameras to have like a wee backup that can be in your bag in the event that something goes wrong. Maybe, well, even though you've got one on your phone, but they just never managed to be quite as good as the one that was on your phone. So it's probably still the best backup that you have.
Yeah.
But I suppose the best backup that you have is the one that you have.
the one that's with you. That's the thing, isn't it? This one looks quite nice in that the lens doesn't stick out too far on the front, but it is quite ginormous in terms of being really circular and big. In terms of, I mean, I don't mean sticking out. I mean the amount of space it takes up on the front. And if you look at the amount of space it needs to take up, really, by looking at the size of the lens in there, it could be a very small thing. That's all design, isn't it? It's all style and design. And I like I want the red one. If anyone's buying stuff for the show, red one, please.
Yeah. I do like the term sticking out. That was a real 90s sticking out thing that came along. If you remember that at all, no?
Remind me.
I think it was it Hale and Pace or something like that? There was a whole thing where it was the cool catchphrase that people would say instead of saying something was rather good. They would say it's sticking out.
No, I missed that one. I was probably
it sticks out of the rest.
I was probably sleeping at the time.
Oh right, or you were off.
No, don't go there.
Getting ladies with your teeth, mate.
My bed partner. Yeah, but the point was though that it doesn't stick out too far, and so it becomes a bit more pocketable. But in many ways, it's very basic. It's just a lovely idea for those with pots of money. If you can afford a coffee Teasmade, you can also afford one of these.
Yeah, you'll be broke by the end of the podcast if you have to buy everything here. That's crazy. Right. Lenovo are shifting direction. They're going to be starting to produce new Android-based PCs. And some people, including the writer over on Tech Radar, seem to think that this is a good idea. Ted, tell them why it's not.
I was hoping that you would tell us why it's not, because... I was hoping that you might have an insight into how who would buy this. We're used to having Chromebooks now, and now more recently Windows computers that will just run any Android application that you want, pretty much any app in the store, and blah blah blah. And so, why would anyone then, in this case Lenovo, want to create a standalone, all-in-one desktop, inverted commas, PC that is running what you could do on a Chromebook and a Windows computer anyway, and probably cheaper, and into the bargain get tied into only being able to use those things that Android produces and what's in the Play Store? Or maybe there's something round the corner we don't know about. We know that Lenovo is in bed with Microsoft at the moment. They're all kind of talking to each other. Maybe there's something we don't know, and this is it's actually a variation on a device they've already got out there called the ThinkCentre M70A, and they've just kind of ripped out all the inners and put this whole OS in and made it Android only. I just don't get it. I don't get what they're doing with it, and I think there's something we don't know, but I'm not very intelligent, so you will probably know what the answer is.
No, actually, you took all of my comments that I was going to make, other than I have sat down with Android on a tablet and tried to use it with a keyboard and mouse quite recently to see how well that works, and it's not the kind of experience that you would want to buy a dedicated computer for. You may use it in an emergency, if you have some emergency computing that needs to be done, and a Windows PC or a Linux PC aren't nearby. Oh, God forbid a Mac is nearby. But using Android as your...
This journalist...
Perhaps an old person, or someone who's technically not quite as...
You just get a Chromebook, wouldn't you? Because it does all the Android apps anyway. This journalist is suggesting that Lenovo are hoping, I don't know where he's got this from, but hoping that this will appeal to the retail and hospitality business. And again, I can't see why business would want to do this, tie themselves to the Play Store. It just seems that it's not April Fool, is it? Is it April yet? No, it's not, is it?
Well, the other argument that he's used in his article here is that you can sit down at your Android PC and have less notifications rather than having to deal with the annoying problems in Windows 11.
You can do that with a Chromebook, though.
But your Android device is going to be plaguing you with notifications of this, that, and the other. Everything that you get in your phone is going to be coming through on your Android PC because you've signed in with your Google address.
I suppose you can turn
so you're
it
going to
off.
get what you can do, but then you have to do that.
Yeah.
You can turn that off on Windows 11, but
Yeah.
I can leave my phone downstairs and come up here and sit and focus a lot better on my computer without my phone beside me, because I know my phone will be going bing bing, whether it be Amazon or eBay or some crap that they're just throwing at you, where you just get notifications and ads that you may not have turned off. You may not have the knowledge of how to turn off quite effectively. Somehow they bleed back through, and you start getting, on this day back in 1985, you took these photographs. You're like, shut up. The amount of times you get a notification, you go, oh, someone's messaged me. No, it's not. It's a hark back to a picture of my dog that passed away. And you have a wee cry.
Here's a top tip: is when they come through, if you long press the notification. I don't know if listeners might not know this. Long press the notification, and there's a button that pops up that says "Stop these notifications."
But you might not want to stop the notifications.
Yeah, sure.
You can leave your phone downstairs and then go back down whenever you've done whatever it is you need to do, and then pick up your phone and look through your notifications to see what you missed.
Yep, sure.
If you're sitting at an Android PC, they're going to be coming through there, so you need to turn off the notifications on that PC, and there's going to be an awful lot more of them. I haven't touched my notifications on my Windows PC in, I don't know, a week or so, and I've got 6. One from YouTube, one from Microsoft Rewards Daily, one for a Windows Defender summary, and you have more notifications in your notification center. Right. That's it.
Yeah. I
didn't spring those up in front of me.
Right.
They're just there, hidden. No noise or anything has come through.
Unlike this bloody watch.
Well, that's the other thing. I think that Google is having trouble communicating between its devices at the moment, because I know I've sent articles from my PC to my tablet, and they haven't arrived, and vice versa. I don't know where they're going. Perhaps you're getting them, or perhaps someone is getting them on a phone that I've sold in the past. I don't know.
They want you to use Nearby Share, don't they?
Well, it's built into the Chrome browser, is there not? Send to your devices.
Yeah, you can do that. But I think that Google want people to use Nearby Share because it challenges what Apple have done with their system, which they've had for ages, which I can't remember the name of now. But look at that. A Molto's crashed. It's just turned off.
You're hundreds of miles away.
It's just turned off. This Molto is just absolutely hopeless, isn't it? Dear listener of Tech Addicts, if you're thinking about recording a Skype call, don't use a Molto because it's rubbish. Go back to MP3 Skype recorder, or use Skype's own recorder built in. We've been testing this Molto, as I'm sure you're a bit fed up with hearing now. Gareth and I, for the last kind of 3 months nearly, paid them 30 quid each for the privilege, and it just doesn't work. We've complained to them, and they just ignore us. Bad company.
Well, they've started ignoring you now.
Yeah.
they weren't always ignoring you. They did write back.
That's terrible, isn't it? Mind you, I am on Windows 10, not 11 today. So,
well, touching wood, mine seems to still be going. I'm not going near it. It's down there. I can see it.
Yeah.
But I just did a test there where I that Tech Radar thing, I just shared a device. I sent it to my phone, and I got a notification on Windows through the My Device thing that I've received that, but it's not actually showing on my phone.
You should try Nearby Share. I've got Nearby Share working on the computer and laptop and everywhere, and on my phone and tablet, and that works really, really well. It's flawless in my experiments.
But then, how do you Nearby Share from your Windows PC?
Because there's a Windows application. It's in my taskbar. I'm looking at it now. So you just open up the Windows application, and it hooks up with whatever other devices you want to nearby share with. It all works really well. I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Oh, right, okay. I'll have to look for it then. Yeah. I don't have the application, I don't believe.
Right, okay.
Right, okay. Maybe I do. Japanese. Yeah, we're going to Japan for their weirdest laptop, which is a fun little... Oh, I don't know what I've done there, but I've done something. This is Panasonic's extraordinary 1 kilogram Let's Note laptop,
wow.
which has 2 SIM card tools, or 2 SIM card trays, a round touchpad, and holds on to a 35-year-old tech so that you can run 4 monitors. What's the 35-year-old tech that runs? Ted, have you read this? I didn't read it. I must have missed it.
Where's the 35-year-old bit? Can't see that. Oh, yeah, it's in the headline.
Yeah.
You can run 4 monitors. No, I haven't read it properly to take that bit in. I was more interested in the way it looks, to be honest. The circular touchpad, which I've never seen, but apparently, according to Panasonic, in their business applications, this is a line of computers called Let's Note. And they've aimed this over the years, apparently, at business use, mainly enterprise. And it's got a good spec going on there. It's an i7 chipset with 16 gigs of RAM and half a terabyte of SSD and blah, 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 blah. But it's got thousands of ports all around it. And it's just, it's built for business. Yes, it is 1 kilo, but I think that's with the standard battery pack. You can get this extended battery pack for it. I remember having a laptop probably 10 years ago where you could buy, in fact it might have been a Dell, where you could buy this secondary battery pack, and it stuck out and it formed a kind of shelf, a stand for your laptop, because it was so big and powerful that it just stuck out. Do you remember those?
Vaguely,
yeah,
I think so.
So I've missed the bit about the 35-year-old thingy, but yeah, you can run 4 monitors with it, which is what docking stations now are claiming they can do, willy-nilly. And as I'm talking, I'm desperately trying to find a reference to what the 35 years means in this article, but I can't find it, so I'll give up. What about that circular trackpad, though? Isn't that nice?
Well, I've seen those before. And it was actually Panasonic. Jay Garrett, if you remember him from the podcast before, when he and I went to visit Panasonic, and we sat down with a bunch of the engineers. They all had these little laptops that were, the dinky little Japanese ones that were almost pocketable, and they had round trackpads and things. And Jay and I were tripping over ourselves to have a look at them because we'd never seen anything quite like it.
Right.
But it's obviously like a space concession because Japan likes everything to be really dinky and wee.
Yeah.
And these were fully powered, fleshed out laptops that fit into these tiny little frames with every consideration for space. And we were like, oh wow! But I think the keyboard was maybe Japanese or something like that, so we couldn't really do anything with them. And the engineers didn't speak any English, and they thought that we were kind of trying to spy on their emails or look at their pictures of their wives or something like that. Because they were all gentlemen. I was there; they were all gentlemen. But they were just
they could have had husbands.
Fantastic little machines. They could have. Yes, I stand corrected. Their significant others, if they had
bed
any.
Partners.
Floor partners.
I think we've got a show title here. It's got to have bed partners in it.
That'll be the makings of us. That'll be the one thing that's trending this weekend.
Oh dear.
Right. They are. This reminds me very much of those little laptops, and I would love to have one. But I know that using it on a daily basis as your main, with my fat fingers and your fat fingers, it's not sort of something that you're going to want to be able to or to have to use on a daily basis. It's nice to play around with.
Right.
These tiny little things, but I don't know that we would get on particularly well with it as a main driver, but the specs are good.
There certainly seems to be a thing about Japan, and there are certain companies, aren't there, like Panasonic and like Sony and like Sharp, for example, and Toshiba, where they're just really, really successful in Japan, and they seem to want to keep it all in Japan and not be so global as many other brands that we know, like Lenovo. And they must have enough sales in Japan to kind of justify this. That looking at some pictures of the Let's Note series on Google just now. They look very Toshiba to me. I used to have a Toshiba. Very chunky and lumpy and not very sleek. And no wonder it's a kilo in weight, because it's a right old lump of a thing.
Right, okay. So carrying this plus that Omni charge from earlier on will give you a right good workout.
Yes, it would. Very nice, though. Excellent. I love that trackpad. It is, yeah. Great.
Well, carrying on with Lenovo, aren't we? Yes, we are. They have released details of their P12, which is their 12.7-inch 3K display tablet with 4 speakers, pen included, and it's looking to release, in America at least, for $379.
Yeah, we spoke about this, didn't we? We spoke about this before. I think the news here is that it's just being released now.
Yes, yeah. And in direct competition with the Galaxy Tab S9 FE Plus, which has just come along as well, and we're not covering that because that's far too expensive for what it is. And this seems to be much more of a where your money might do better.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks fantastic, this. It'd be interesting to see what UK prices we get, and if we get the pen with it, because it's quite hard to find these Lenovo tabs with the pens and the keyboards all in box. Yeah, so specs-wise, it's got octa-core 2.6 gigahertz MediaTek Dimensity 7050 processor, a Mali G68 GPU, 8 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, a micro SD card that could take up to 1 terabyte. That 3K screen is 2944 by 1849. With 60 Hz refresh rate and 400 nits. Gorilla Glass 3, 16 by 10 aspect ratio. So it's a big device with a lot going on in it, and it's got a battery of 10,200.
It does look very nice. I just looked up how the Dimensity 7050 compares with Snapdragon, and the answer seems to be the Snapdragon 888. So certainly not powerful by today's standards, but it looks like it is, doesn't it? I can't see that that's really a problem. And for that price, $379 with a stylus, and all those specs and ports and lovely. Is it? And did you say it was an OLED display?
No, I didn't actually say that. No. I didn't notice that.
Right, so it doesn't say, does it? It doesn't say if it's...
No.
I guess it's an LCD, but as we've said before on this show, LCD screens from Samsung are really good, so I guess it's probably a Samsung display anyway. Yeah, absolutely, this looks great. I think, as we mentioned before, it looks really, really good value for money. And, it looks a bit like... Because it's a 2-in-1 thingy, isn't it? And you can get a keyboard for it. So, it's taking on the ones that are similar, as you say, like from Samsung. I'm waffling now, and it's your turn.
No, I was quite enjoying you just wittering on there. That's fine. I was looking to see if I could find any information on it being released in the UK, but they just call their things the P12, even though the last one before it was called the P12 as well. So it's just a newer, slightly different model.
Right.
It's going to be quite difficult to track this down. You can find on eBay they're currently selling the P12 Pro, which sounds better. It's £600, but I don't think it's anywhere near the same thing. It's got an AMOLED display.
Didn't you have did you have a P11? Or you had one of these?
I did, yeah.
And you always used to say that was really good, didn't you?
Yes, but the processor was adequate. But whenever you needed it, the power wasn't there.
Right.
So, like if you're rendering a video or something like that, or even deleting multiple items off the device, it could grind down to a halt.
Right.
Whereas now, using the S9, Tab S9, it just flies through and you just realise, I was denying myself the power.
Right. And this might be the same. If it's compared with the Snapdragon 888, there will be some users like you that are rendering video that might find that this is not good enough. But for the 98% of everyone else, it'll be just fine and it'll feel very powerful indeed.
And how?
And what?
There you go. And how? I've heard people ending conversations and topics with "and how."
Really?
And it's not a question, even though "how" is a question. But it's a statement that seems to bring. It's like "amen" or something like that. Let it be so.
Oh, that must be a Belfast thing. I've never heard of that.
Well, I think I can hear it in an American accent.
Oh right.
I drank all of that milkshake, and how?
Oh right. No, I've never heard that. Okay, I'm obviously watching the wrong American things.
All right. Well, we'll talk about another American thing, and that is the ultra-ergonomic keyboard Logitech Wave that's coming out for $59 dues. And how?
Logitech, yes, thank you. I thought Logitech came from Scandinavia or somewhere, don't they? Or was it Eastern Europe somewhere? I don't think it's American, is it? I could be wrong. But it was a tidy link anyway.
Okay, all right. This is one of those ergonomic-y type keyboards with the keyboards a wee bit kind of squint so that they match up with your hands coming in from the left and the right. Yeah. There's a wrist rest as well. It's well worn or well walked technology that we've seen, and Logitech are just having a go at it, and they look all right.
I think one of the things that's being said here is that Microsoft, I didn't know this, but apparently Microsoft have given up on this. They're not making these anymore. And they were the kind of leaders, I think, back in the day of making these wavy keyboards a thing. I had one once, a Microsoft one, and I didn't last very long with it. It was just my muscle memory was so stuck in straight keyboards. I just couldn't get it at all. But yeah, good for Logitech having a go at it. So I'm sure some people will like it. They've also got have you noticed the mouse in that picture? That's a what is it they call that? Yes. It's an upright ergonomic mouse, but it's got a particular kite. No, not kite. Light. No, not light. What's it called? Lift. It's
Shite?
No,
right.
It's called a lift. That's right. And apparently they're actually quite good, and they run on an AA battery and not rechargeable. So
Boo.
that whole that whole wavy thing used to be a thing, but did you ever try it?
Well, I have one of Microsoft's one. My BIOS access keyboard. When I need to plug in a USB keyboard to my computer to access the BIOS, if the wireless one's being a bit wonky, as sometimes can happen.
Yeah.
Is an ergonomic one that I bought for my daughter when she was going away to university, I think, and she has upgraded since then. But there was nothing wrong with it, and it's a fine keyboard made by Microsoft, and it was dirt cheap,
right?
And it's still working to this day.
And do you not find that it screws with your brain?
No, I only use it to select different menus on the BIOS and then unplug it and go back
try,
to my
try and use it.
master.
Use it for a couple of days and see how you get on.
Well, actually, I was looking while we're on Logitech. The Logitech Master Mouse 3S is out, and I've got it in my basket over on Amazon. I don't know why I'm whispering to you. But my wife's out.
It's secret.
And I saw it had dropped down in price to 70 quid.
No, 70
I was
quid.
trying to just
Shh. Don't tell everyone.
Oh no, it's gone back up again to 89. It's gone back up to 89.90. I wouldn't buy such a thing. I need to save my money to buy flowers. Flowers for my wife.
Oh dear. I'll tell you, the one feature that I just could not do without now on a mouse of any sort is the inertia scrolling. That is the one. I don't care what the mouse is like apart from that. But I've got an old Amazon mouse here, which I use with my other setup, and it's just so annoying. That inertia scrolling is just great. I love it, and I'm playing with it now.
You know, I dug out one of the older ones, the Logitech Master Mouse 2, to put on my Chromebook, because I was using my Chromebook one day and I thought, I could get a bit tired of using the trackpad here. I'll go get a mouse, got a proper mouse, and I found myself moving back to the trackpad from the mouse, because the Chromebooks have all the little 3-finger swipes and stuff like that all built into it. And I was much more productive using the trackpad. And I have to say, hats off to Google. And I think Windows has some of that as well built into their laptops. That the trackpad is actually a wee bit more attractive than the mouse when on the go.
Right.
Because I don't think I haven't needed a mouse up until recently on the Chromebook. And I just thought, there's one there, I may as well use it. And I'm not using it. I'm still going with the trackpad. The Chromebook on the trackpad is excellent.
I think it depends how good it is and how big it is. Some of the trackpads now are huge, which is.
But it's Google's functionality that they built into it that makes you want to use it over the mouse.
Like the 2-finger scrolling and the 3-finger tap, and it's all been thought out very well, hasn't it?
There's 4-finger stuff as well, but I can't remember what they are.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving into the Wearables Watch, which we've been hearing frequently throughout the show. Do tell.
Watch. The things that I've been testing out watches and phones this last fortnight, because people on the circuit have been very kind and generous and sent them over. One of them, Joe Hickey, has actually gifted me his Pixel Watch first generation, because there's a
nice one.
Thank you, Joe. There's a scratch on the screen, and I can only just see it. So, but he's probably right. He would probably struggle to sell it.
Oh, you can't sell it.
No, exactly. So anyway, thank you, Joe, for that kind gesture, and also to Tim Evans. And Andy Moon. They've all been sending me their watches to try out. And this week, the news here is that Google released Gmail for Wear OS, and also they released Calendar for Wear OS. And it's great, particularly on the Pixel Watch. I wish the Pixel Watch was bigger, because at the moment I'm preferring it over everything else. But the reason that I like the Samsung one is because it's physically bigger and you can just see more on it all the time. But yeah, I really like the Pixel Watch, apart from the size, and all these apps that are rolling out onto them from Google is showing ongoing commitment. So that's really good. There's also an Audible app that's been released in the last fortnight, and that's available on Wear OS as well. I have used Audible, so I did install it, but I couldn't get it to work. It kept hanging at the continue on phone stage. It just never popped up on the phone, so I need to do some more testing with that. But yeah, nice to have these things rolling out, and you can play with your tiles on your watch, given that you can swap and change them around and use Gmail and Calendar for those like me who are baked into Google services instead of others.
I was talking to a lady on Friday night. She'd just been in my bathroom, and she came out, and she was from Belfast. And she said, "You've got some lovely tiles in there." And I went, "Got some lovely what?" I went, "Tiles. Your tiles are lovely." "Are you saying tiles or towels?" "Tiles." I was like, "Oh, right." Yeah. I still none the wiser if she was complimenting on the tiles on the wall or the tiles hanging from the rail. Yeah. But I'll just take it as a compliment for both, because they're both lovely, I suppose. Lovely tiles.
Great accent. Love it.
All right, my mouse is the battery is dying.
Have you got a watch going at the moment? Do you use one?
No, I don't. Right. Actually, I'm wearing my dad's Omega.
All right.
Which I don't know why. It gets cold actually. No, it's quite cold on my wrist.
Oh, right.
Might take it off. The OnePlus. We're moving into the phone zone.
The phone zone.
Where we have the OnePlus Open, which is leaked, and we're getting a rumoured price of around about $1,699 and maybe even 99 cents on top of that. It's a good looking phone that OnePlus, whilst they say that they're possibly going to be the renders, they're not being totally on board with them, because they're saying never settle. So they're not going to settle on any of these designs.
This is exactly the same as the what is it based on? There's another phone that came out in China which is just exactly the same as this. The Oppo,
Reno or one of those. Yeah.
No, the Find N3, isn't it?
The Find.
I think it's the Find N3, and it's exactly the same phone. So they probably have got quite a good idea of what it will look like. I can't find the Find N3 now. I thought that was out already. Anyway, do carry on.
Oh, well, okay. We know that it's probably going to be powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, because what flagship wouldn't be right now? But there's rumours that the 8 Gen 3 is only a few days away after the release date of this. So, they're not pushing it back and getting those. But then, don't know. Things could change. It's got 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, a 6.31 outer screen, and a 7.8-inch flexible main screen. Sourced from BOE, Bank of England. No, we worked this out before.
It's that Chinese firm that makes screens, and that everyone thinks they've got a Samsung screen, but it's not. It's theirs. But generally, people are saying that they're not as good as Samsung screens.
Right, so it's not coming with Mervyn King's fingerprints all over. No, he's not in the Bank of England anymore. He's retired. Lord King.
I found the specs for the Find N3, and I put a link in the show notes to them. And from what you're saying, reading through, it's exactly the same. So it's like the global version of the Find N3, I think.
Okay, all right. Well,
but $1,700. Oh, it's up there with the Pixel Fold, isn't it?
Tis. And the days are well and truly dead that OnePlus was a nice little cheap alternative.
Yeah, with Cyanogen running.
Yeah. We're getting into hardback territory now.
Yeah, very nice. And we were talking about this on PSE last night with Shane Craig, and he's really looking forward to this because he thinks it'll be just the right dimensions and the right size and the right width and the right everything. And he thinks that physically that OnePlus have probably got this right and everyone else has got it slightly wrong.
Yes, and... well, I like people who get things slightly wrong because that's what we do all the time. The Nokia XR21 limited edition has debuted. And Ted, did you buy one?
This is ridiculous, isn't it? They made 50 of these, and 20 of them are going to their staff and backroom boys, no doubt, and they're making 30 available for open sale. Backroom people. So they're making 30 of these available to go on open sale. I don't know what they're doing here. It seems to be some celebration thing happening, and they're making this, which is basically just a different colour, I think, to the other ones. The XR21 is an interesting device. It's absolutely true. It's the one with that IP69K or whatever it is. So it survives volcanoes and chemical spills and all sorts of stuff. Really interesting device, absolutely. But making 30, they were sold out in about 3 seconds. And
I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
The backroom boys keep destroying them, dropping them, accidentally having them, taking them to Mordor and throwing them into the volcano, and they're giving them something that they can't destroy.
And making 30 of them. 20 for the backroom boys.
Aye, but they probably cost them about €100 to build, and then if they make 30 of them, they'll probably get their money back.
Well, a load of rubbish. Bad idea, Nokia. Spend your money doing something more sensible.
Although it wasn't a particularly expensive device anyway. It was €700 whenever it came along, which is 500 £600.
That's enough, given that the XR20 started at $399, and the XR21 hasn't got Qi charging, whereas the XR20 did. Anyway.
But then the standard edition will come out in a couple of times. They're following boutique Blu-rays, where they put out the limited edition, and everybody buys those, and then they bring along the standard edition.
No, the standard edition's been out for ages. This is what I don't quite understand about what they're doing, and it seems to be tied into some celebration that what's the limited edition for? Because it's to do with Hungary, the assembly line, blah 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 blah, frosted platinum. I thought it was some event. It was some celebration of Nokia had reached a landmark or something, but it doesn't say it there, does it? Oh, it's to celebrate the start of EU manufacturing. That's what it is. So, as we reported previously on the show, Nokia, or at least I think we did, Nokia have started manufacturing, although not assembling, their phones in Hungary. That's it. And in order to celebrate this beginning, they've made 30 actually, in reality, of these devices. And they've now sold them in 2 seconds, so no one will ever see one.
Right, okay. Well worked out.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yep.
Terrific. Now you can tell us the same thing about the Xiaomi 14 and the Xiaomi 14 Pro.
Very briefly, the 14 and the 14 Pro, which it seems like 5 minutes since the 13 came out, and the 13 Pro and whatever, but it's not. It's a year later, and so in line with everyone else, it's just round the corner. It is a rumour at this stage, but and we don't know an awful lot about it, but it looks like it's coming in not December. Yeah, it looks like there's an event taking place in the end of October. In fact, in a few days from now, 10 days from now, and that we'll get much more. In fact, let's leave this whole article out until the next show when we'll actually know something about it, shall we?
I think people would be disappointed if we don't at least have a go and make something up.
Oh, okay then. It's got a kitchen sink in it, and it drives your car for you.
Fantastic, wonderful. What? This is the flagship version. Should it not just pilot your boat as opposed to drive your car?
Oh dear. Yeah, we'll come back to that next show. Sorry, I should have not put that in until we knew more about it.
Because that's what we love to do on this show. Right, okay. The Samsung Galaxy S23 FE is launching, and it's actually different to the S23.
It's as
right.
It would be.
I missed this section when I was going over the... Yeah, I did. I must have missed this section. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, the S23 FE is it available now? I think it is, actually, in some markets. Anyway, the S23 FE...
26th of October.
Oh, is it? Okay, thank you. Is kind of in keeping with the S22 FE and the S21 FE and the S20 FE, that it's bigger than the baby phones. So the Galaxy S23, for example, in this case, is a smaller phone, and it's very dinky, whereas the S20 FE, which PSC has got in stock still, is a bigger device. Not as big as the 6.7-inch, 6.8-inch giant Samsung phones, but it's in and about there. And it's just a bit knocked down in terms of specs. So, for example, the way in which the Gorilla Glass has been bought in to be still Gorilla Glass 5, and on the S23 it's Victus, and the chipset is the 8 Gen 1 instead of the 8 Gen 2. There's an awful lot here that's just been shaved off. And actually, it's still an awful good phone for the money, and worthy of consideration if you're in for a Samsung. It's got stereo speakers. It's got even wireless charging, which is what the S20 and 20 FE had as well. And it looks really good. So we don't have any pricing, which I thought it was on sale already. Have we got any pricing?
There is pricing. It'll start at about $600.
Okay.
So when it comes to the UK, who knows? But this is Samsung's baby device, so this will just be the deal stealer. You'll just be able to find all kinds of great deals on this particular phone, especially when it's straight out the door. because it's all last year's
It's
tech.
also got Samsung DeX available, which is really good.
Does it?
Yeah, wireless charging, Samsung DeX. It's got an optical fingerprint scanner instead of the ultrasonic, but okay, that's fine. We can live with that. You see, it's very close to the S23, except it's a bit bigger, and it's considerably cheaper because the S23 starts at 849, or it did, and this is, did you say 600?
Yeah. Is it we have the S21 FE, and it doesn't have DeX on it, which I was most annoyed about. No, but if they put it into this, then hey.
Well, it says DeX in the GSM Arena specs. I haven't kind of explored that more fully, but it definitely says DeX.
Good, because I've always wondered, why Samsung aren't just dishing that out on every device that is in any way capable, because it is such an in-demand novelty that people would genuinely want, even if they only use it 3 times in the entire duration of having a phone for 2 years. It's just useful.
The GSM Arena on the S20... Did you say you've got the S21 FE?
Yeah.
5G version? With a...
I think so.
What's the chipset? A Snapdragon 888 or an Exynos 2100? Because in the GSM Arena listings, it says that has got Samsung DeX. And yet, you say it hasn't. So...
Yeah, I thought it did have when I first picked it up, and then I tested it, and I was most annoyed because my wife uses that phone. I was like, here you go, and if you hook it up to this, nothing happens. And I went and found on the website that it just wasn't mentioned anywhere, and I think they might have planned to put it in, but ended up not.
Maybe you should test it.
But I honestly don't know.
Because it says in GSM Arena listings that it's there. So test it again. They might have added it.
Well, I don't even know which version she has of it, whether it's the Qualcomm or the Exynos version. So maybe I don't think it would boil down to that.
No,
but it might.
Yeah,
who knows?
Investigation time.
I will do that. That does mean going and getting it. But anyway, we'll move into the name of the game, where we talk about gaming. And there's a few big things that have come along, and one thing in particular, which was announced this week, that has been speculated for a good long time, but it looks like it's coming along just in time for Christmas, and that is that Sony have unveiled a smaller, I say smaller, in inverted commas, PlayStation 5 in time for the holiday season. The PlayStation 5 is now 35.8 centimeters tall, as opposed to PS5 height 39. So they've managed to shave off 3.2 centimeters.
How ridiculous.
Which will bring it in nicely into anyone's TV unit, because that's the big problem that everybody has. It's absurdly large.
Why are they doing that?
This is a wee bit smaller.
Why?
To make it just a wee bit nicer. They always do this after a couple of years. They bring out a slim version,
really?
But they can't call this slim because it's not slim. It's slightly smaller. But the big killer here, and this is one big feature that I absolutely adore, and I thank them for doing it, and hopefully it's just not something that they do for the tiniest amount of time, is that the PlayStation 5 has 2 versions. There's the disc and the digital. The digital, currently, there is no way of hooking up the disc to it. You can't plug in a Blu-ray player and play it back. Even if you hook it in by USB, it does not recognize it, and you cannot put a disc into the digital version. This new version will have the ability to add a Blu-ray player to it, or a 4K UHD, and you can replace the one that you have if something was to go wrong with it. You don't have to ship back the whole unit. You can just take off the disk drive and then send that away and get a new one if you're in warranty, or buy a new one and add it on if you're not in warranty. And also, if you buy the digital version, you can then decide to change your mind later on and go and buy the disk drive and add it on as well. Which, for me personally, I think that's Sony still committing to discs, to physical releases for a while longer, and actually making a decent effort to make things a bit more approachable if you make a mistake at some stage, or if you are unable to find the disc version. You can kind of take apart your digital version and turn it into a disc version, which would be great. So, Ted, are you going to buy one of these?
No.
Oh.
I'm still waiting for my little thing to arrive in October. In fact, they put it back to November now. You know, that thing that I ordered. What's it called? Taito Super Pocket. That's my. It takes MK cartridges. That's my level of gaming, as you know. But my observation about the this thing is, apart from what you're saying about being able to add or replace an optical drive, is if you're going to make a small version, surely you just make it half the size, not shave off a tiny bit of the end. That just seems a bit mad to me.
Yeah. Well, they've done that. I think the PlayStation 3 went through 3 incarnations before it became small. There was the chunky version, then the slim one, which was slightly narrower but really, really wide. And then they eventually made the third version, which everyone forgot about. And my son mentioned it to me, going, "What's this?" and showed me a picture, and I went, "Oh, that was the PS3 Slim that they eventually made, or small or light or whatever," which was a small tray that had a slidey open top to it, and you could put your disc in. So this is their second incarnation. So I imagine the third incarnation, before the PlayStation 5 exits the market altogether, will be a proper tiny one not tiny, but a smallish one that you can fit into a home entertainment console. But this you can't. It's notably not really that much smaller than what is already there, which is already a behemoth. And again, a weapon that if someone breaks into your house, you could take them out.
That Blu-ray disc drive, I think it's quite very reasonably priced, isn't it? You know, you're $80 to replace it. I think Sony could have charged an awful lot more for that if they wanted to, couldn't they?
They could have, yes. I'm really enthusiastic about this design, and I hope that this is actually something that becomes a standard, and you can start doing this. You know, if Microsoft were to do this as well with their Xbox, that would be great, because over the years there's been various different things that have happened. My original Xbox, the original Xbox, the lasers actually cut through the wires eventually of the CD drive or the DVD drive, and I had to replace it at a cost to myself. And there was a whole thing about which DVD drive do you have, because one's made by Thompson, the other's made by, I don't know, some other company like Grundig or something like that, and you can't replace one with the other. It's like, oh, flipping heck. It was a whole thing. It was a whole to-do. Yeah. And it ended up, I couldn't do that anymore, and I ended up having to hook up another CD-ROM drive to it to be able to rip discs from onto a hard drive to be able to play them back.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was with Xboxes back then, but now it's all different. And I love this idea, and they could do this more and more.
Excellent.
Hopefully, yeah. Right, moving on to Atari. Ah, yes, we're going to talk about Atari, because they've released yet another game. Engadget seem to believe that this is the only game that they've released in a long time, or at least they're celebrating it for that. But yes, a new game has come out for the Atari 2600 called Save Mary. This is a new cartridge. There's only 500 of them that they're putting together, and they retail for, well, I think it's actually about $80 or something like that, or $60. It's quite expensive, but you'll be able to play new content.
It looks like a crap game as well.
Well, what are you expecting? Something that's as good looking as Red Dead.
Crap game like that. At least Evercade, bless them, have priced things according to whatever. But $60 for a crappy old 1982 game that looks awful.
Well, Atari are gearing up because there's a new console coming out that I can't remember what it's called, but there's a new 2600 style console that's coming that will utilize new and old cartridges. So they're trying to reinvigorate that. They're sold out. Oh,
are they?
Okay.
Well, are these games? The pre-orders are sold out, have they?
Yeah.
Wow. There must be.
But having a look down at all the ones that they've released for the 2600, they're pretty much all sold out, or they're America only.
Right. There must be a huge number. Well, a huge number, but a good number of people that are still really into this stuff, more so than you.
Oh well, yeah. Not really into it that much anymore. Bit excited about Duke Nukem on the Evercade, but that's about it.
You just like collecting them. You'll order one, keep it in its cellophane for the next 45 years, just so that you can sit and look at it.
No, I've never done that.
Yes.
Well, we'll come back to the Atari later on in the show.
Fair enough.
Samsung, they're trying to make their folding phones a wee bit more attractive to purchasers, or to buyers, or consumers and customers, depending on what way you want to pronounce that. Is there a difference between consumer and customer? What is
No, but yes, there is, because
consume.
someone consumes that they don't necessarily have bought it. So I could consume a DVD that you send me, but you have been the customer and I've been the consumer.
Right, okay. Yes, of course, that makes sense. They're not spelt the same way anyway. There's a T in customer, and consumer doesn't have that.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Did you know that spaghetti is the plural and spaghetto is the singular?
No. One
so
piece
you have
of
a piece of spaghetto. There you go. Samsung is trying to keep. Yes, they're bringing out special games for the Samsung Galaxy Z Folds. Is there anything worth getting excited about this, Ted? I see they're linking up with Epic Games and Crafton.
Well,
Crafton?
They make
pasta and sauce, don't they?
No, that's Craft, I think. As usual with gaming, I look to you to know what's going on here. To know, for example, what Epic Games might be in question here and which ones would work well on a folding tablet. And Crafton Games, which doesn't sound as though you've ever heard of. But they're saying that they want to make the handheld very similar to the kind of Nintendo Switch kind of thing and get into that sort of mentality. But it seems like it's a different shape altogether. I don't quite get what they're after here. Epic Games on a folding tablet, does that make sense?
Well, Epic Games is a software house, and they've kind of gone the Steam way, and they have a desktop client on which you can purchase and get free games over. They release a new free game almost every week, and that's about my experience with Epic Games now. They might be trying to bring some of their games to the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold, but having a look at this, it is more of an announcement that Samsung are taking this in a particular way, because Fortnite is already out on there, and it's got a special version of it that works quite well with Samsung.
Oh, right.
And then Crafton do PUBG, which is, I've forgotten what that stands for. It's like a public unknown or player unknown battleground or something like that. I can't remember. But there's a version of that made by Crafton. And there's going to be other software groups as well. Kako, NC Soft, Nexon, Pearl Abyss, and Smilegate are all going to have new games and optimizing existing games to come out through the Samsung Gaming Hub.
So presumably they'd make sure that the buttons are in the right place and that sort of thing to make for a good experience. And
yeah.
Okay.
And they want to have console quality games on the Z Fold, and are looking to pay for these companies to make special versions. A bit like Google tried to do with Stadia, to make special versions of their games. That
successful operation.
Yeah, yes. Grand. So you're going to get more crap for your Samsung Galaxies. I hate the gaming hub, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a few games on my tablet, And when you open the gaming hub to go, right, what game are going to play now? The whole thing is just other stuff that are not the games you're currently playing. And then there's the thin bar, the task launcher at the bottom, which has your games in it. And it doesn't tell you what the games are. It just shows you the icon. It just feels like, right, the gaming hub is for launching stuff at you, as opposed for launching the games that you're currently playing. Yeah, I'm not happy with it, but, you know. And I don't actually notice it really sort of, I suppose whenever it comes to the level of power that's in that tablet, the S9, the Tab S9 doesn't really have any considerations that need to be made, because it'll run every game remarkably well, because it's still the most powerful tablet on the market.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can tinker around with things and make it run better.
No. I think it's more to do with placement of on-screen elements and working perhaps with whatever hardware stuff is available, and maybe Samsung controllers will come along. I don't know. It feels like it's more to do with that to me. But what do I know?
Okie dokie. Well, we'll move on to something that you might know a bit about, and that is flapping traps about apps, and that Google is paying Apple for a shocking amount of money for iPhone presents. Ted, shocking. Tell us more.
$20 billion a year.
Wow.
There's an agreement apparently between Google and Apple. Google are paying Apple up to, well, they say 18 to $20 billion a year in order to make sure that Apple default to Google search engine. Actually, it's interesting because I read a story a week or two ago, I think, in the tech press, and some journalists were saying that they had inside information that Apple had been working on their own search engine and have been working on it for quite some years, and around the corner they could actually do their own. But at the moment, it seems that they think that, you see, Apple reckon that they generate $60 billion in advertising. And so if they're paying $20 billion of it, a third of the profit on that, out to Google just because of search, then no wonder they're looking at getting their own search engine going, because it will save them all that money. But that's a huge amount of money, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, in the world of this kind of high finance, you think, well, figures don't really matter very much because they're all just bunging. It's not real money, and no one really cares, and they're all stinking rich anyway. But what are you doing over there? You moving the house around?
My son just came in to give me a donut.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
It is, but he dropped it on the floor. It was in a bag, and he took it out of the bag to show me. Dropped it on the floor.
Is it a jam donut?
No, it's. He had a Jurassic Park party last night, and we got a load of those. They're like chocolate donuts with little chocolate sprinkles, and then put large mini eggs inside them, so they looked like raptor nests. Nice. And there was a few of them left over, so I've got one now.
Very nice indeed.
Carry on talking. I'm going to eat it.
Yeah. Well, I think I've kind of come to the end of it. The whole thing that comes up again here is about monopolies, and so they're all kind of on the verge of fighting each other in court about whatever they do and whatever they don't do, and the usual claptrap that goes on. But the highlight of the report here, really, which has been generated by the analyst firm Bernstein.
Right. Okay.
They've it's all about the money involved, and to mere mortals like us, that kind of money is a bit meaningless. I don't think I can talk any longer, whether your mouth is full or not, about this item without your support and verbal input. Even though, shall I move on to Google Gallows and Chrome Coroner?
Sure, you can if you like. My mouth's not empty, but fire away.
Well,
I can fill it.
Fill it up. Introducing Chromebook Plus. Now, this is quite interesting because we spoke, I think, on the last show about the fact that Google were introducing this new tier of Chromebooks which comply with certain hardware and software standards. So, it turns out that in order to have a Plus badge on the manufacturer's device, then you've got to have at least an i3 chipset, or 12th generation i3, or a Ryzen 3 7000 series or above, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. Well, I think I would hope that had been 256, but then that's just me. A 1080p webcam, or better, with temporal noise reduction. I've no idea what that means, but when you finish scoffing, perhaps you will. And also a full HD display, which can be LCD or OLED or whatever. And on launch, the firms involved in this whole kind of dogfight have put out 8 devices starting at $399. The Acer Chromebook Plus 514, the Plus 515, the Plus CX34, and the Plus CM34 Flip. The HP Chromebook Plus 15.6 inch, and the HP Plus X360 14C, and the Lenovo Flex 5i, and the Lenovo Slim 3i. So there's actually 8 devices that are being launched as a part of this announcement. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your existing hardware won't get the benefits of what the Chromebook Plus software brings as well, which seem to be very much about, as you'd expect with Google, all about AI. I mean, if you'd seen that Pixel 8 launch last week, which I did, it's just the whole thing is about AI everywhere. And this is what they're gearing up these Chromebooks Pluses for, because they want people that are buying a Chromebook and switching over from Windows or Mac or whatever to actually get a good experience. And while Google are heading into this AI territory, that's what they think a good experience will be. So laying aside any hardware implications, it's all about support for ongoing AI-powered experiences later on. Now, during this week, I've seen a couple of reviews of the Asus Plus XR34, I think it is. Yeah, not the flip one. And that's costing $399. And most people that are reviewing that on the circuit are saying that that's actually really, really good value. And it looks really good. And it's been made really well. And yeah, just really good value for money. And they've done really well with it. So if anyone was thinking about getting a Chromebook, shortly, hang on and see. I've checked for the CX34, and you can't buy it. Well, you can't in UK anyway at the moment, but I'm keeping my eye open on that, and that's looks like it might be the way to go if you want to benefit from what Google are doing going forward. After all, they have promised 8 years of updates, and so you want to think about all that if you're going to start using those services. Have I waffled on long enough now? Have you finished your donut?
Yes, I have. I was quite enjoying listening to you there. It's an interesting thing. It really is. And it's going to have a lot of people looking at the Chromebooks wondering, do I meet that? I mean, even something as simple as it has to have a webcam with 1080p and the temporal noise reduction. Obviously you're not going to know whether or not you've got the temporal noise reduction. It doesn't say that in the box. And even if you're to try and break it down, it's remarkably complicated to say whether or not, to say what that is, to see if it's being deployed. And I don't think that mine has it. And I'm not sure what my webcam actually is. It might be 720, because I think an awful lot of Chromebooks do come with 720, because it wasn't seen as a focal point at the time when you were doing Zoom and things like that. It was all about just getting on, as opposed to having the best video quality possible during lockdown and things. So they were just crapping them out left, right, and centre. Mm-hmm. So that's one feature that I think that they should be a bit more lenient with, and be able to bring it to 720p webcams as well.
But presumably what Google is saying is that won't support what they're doing with AI, and they want the rendered pictures, for example, to be of a certain resolution and to make it good. I don't know.
Well, if it turns out on paper that my webcam is actually 1080p and all 2 megapixels of it, it's shit. It's really bad quality. It might be 1080p. I can't remember. I've never really used it. I've opened it up, gone, oh, well, that's shocking, and then put it away again. But everything else on my Chromebook would prescribe that it is a Chromebook Plus. Just maybe not the webcam. And if people start finding out that they're all singing, all dancing i7 Chromebook from maybe Acer or something like that, they're expecting it to be considered a Chromebook Plus, but because the crap webcam that they've thrown into it to try and just get it out as demand is high, is holding them back from having the better experience.
Well,
that's not going to be.
I just realised that the Pixel Book, the original Pixel Book, which is actually on its last year anyway of support, that's got a 720p camera. So even their own hardware doesn't comply with this.
Well, then they should be ruling out the brand of Chromebook Minus, so that you're not getting yourself into being expectant of stuff.
It's a bit like the Windows 11 thing, really. It's like you comply with some things. Like, for example, the Pixel Book has got an i5, so that is much better than i3 base memory, but it fails on the webcam. And I think you're right that there might be, as you were saying, devices out there that just don't comply because of one thing.
Yeah. And where someone's bought a Chromebook for £150 or something, they can't expect it. But I think mine was £500 or £600 when I bought it.
Yeah,
and that was a couple of years ago. Where's the telltale sign? How do you know whether or not it is a Chromebook Plus with a Chromebook that is already in existence? What are you going to see? Does it say in the software update? Or does it say in the build number?
Well, if you buy one now, then it'll be it'll have a badge on it, a physical badge. Yeah,
I know.
Right,
but if you're looking at the one that you've already bought last month for £900, that might have a 720, you need to be able to see. Or is there going to be, cause the Chromebooks have had a bit of a visual upgrade in the last month or two, and I thought whenever I saw it this morning, this must be me into Chromebook Plus territory, because it all looks a wee bit different. Not much, but a wee bit different. The Explorer and things like that look different, or the Files app, or whatever you want to call it. And the notifications ping up differently as well. And it's not exactly stable, and frequently hard restarts on me, which is a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yes.
But
let's see if my little Duet 3 complies.
No, it won't.
Well, it's not that old, is it? It's got what's the chipset that it's using? It's I can't find it. Where's the camera? Camera. This is a crappy. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, that's really helpful. 5 megapixel camera.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Lenovo website, for plugging your own devices.
I think probably the easiest way to test is to open up the camera, record a video, and then bring it into a video editor, and it'll tell you whether it's 1080p or 720. Right. Or have a look at the settings and see if it has high res and low res built in or something.
So my 3, which is supported until 2028, may well not. Oh, here's the chip. The chipset is a Snapdragon 7C Gen 2. Well, that's not on the list to know if it complies or not. Oh, load of rubbish.
No, that's a mobile processor as opposed to an Intel.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Okay. So it won't.
Mobile processors won't.
Mine won't comply, which means, oh dear, my heart will be broken because I can't do loads of AI crap. Anyway.
It's the way forward, Ted. It's the way forward.
Yes. Google.
It's going to be Heinz baked beans AI.
Google Drive is adding a useful column to the right-hand side when you go into it that tells you what's what in terms of status. And this may sound like a little change, but I do use this quite a lot. So if, for example, I go to one of our shared documents to see if someone has updated something or it's worth opening to look into it, I don't know until I open it and see if someone has updated it. Whereas this is going to put a little badge on the right saying, yes, it's been updated, or someone has invited you to add to join in this, or blah 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 blah, and you can just quickly click on it and head across your Google Doc. And the last thing is that Google is announcing new features to fight spam in Gmail. Well, they're supposed to have been doing this for decades, but apparently they've now got new rules that say that bulk senders of email who send more than 5,000 messages a day will now be required to authenticate their emails and put a button on all of their emails allowing people to unsubscribe. Now, I thought they were supposed to do this anyway because there was a big hoo-ha about it some years ago, but apparently possibly not, or maybe they've put a limit on the numbers of organisations sending out. Sorry, the limit on the number of messages being sent out by organisations. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, they're obviously having a bit of a to do about trying to control the spam a bit better, which has been supported by Yahoo as well. I don't quite know how Yahoo come into it, but they seem to be supporting Google in the quest.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Fair enough. I was looking through Google Drive there to see if I could see these tools, but they're not there yet, at least on the desktop
they're not. Version. It is coming. I think they're in one of the usual rollout thing that Google do. It's called an activity feed.
How do you remove yourself from shared folders?
Remove yourself from shared folders.
Because I'm just having a look through. I've got a whole load of press and PR things that are constantly being updated by various smaller companies that they've added me at some stage.
Shared with me. If you go to shared with me, and then you can go to the three dots on the right hand side, and then remove.
Share. Is that? Well, I would be worried that that's going to delete the folder.
It doesn't sound as though you want it.
Alright, okay.
Right, well, here's one.
That's it. Sophie Yang gets annoyed about
that. So if you remove it from your Google Drive, it won't remove it completely unless you're the owner. And if you're the owner, then the other person... Anyway, you're not the owner, so it doesn't... Anyway. No, I can't see the activity tab either.
Right. Okay.
Carry on.
Well, that's all right then. Let's leave it that way. Okie doke. So, moving on to something else, and that would be... We've done that last one, haven't we? Fight spam and Gmail, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hark back. Well, I'm going to go back to the Atari because, well, we discussed Atari there for a wee while, and I'm going to bring the Atari VCS to hark back. And VCS standing for Video Games System. No, Video Computer System, even, VCS. Because game starts with a G.
Yes.
That was what the 2600 was originally called. Yeah. It initially came out around about 1977, and it was an incredibly exciting system that people got very much behind, primarily because of Tato's arcade game Space Invaders, and they'd be able to play that at home. And it's you have to really change your approach to thinking about gaming whenever you're thinking about these introductory consoles. The first time people were able to take something from the arcade home. You know what? Bearing in mind that arcades were still jaw-dropping things, and now we take it all very much for granted. The Atari being able to hook it up to your TV and play Pong or Space Invaders or something as crude and simplistic as those games that came along were like something they'd never seen before. And this was even at a point where VHS was coming into the house. A lot of people didn't even have VHS. Some people didn't even have colour TVs at this time, but they were able to play Space Invaders. That there was this new cultural phenomenon that was hitting the arcade machines, or hitting the arcades down in the centre of town, and kids were just loving, kids and adults alike were just loving it and chucking constant money into it. Atari just got it. So they released the home games console, which was originally called the VCS, and then was rebranded in about 1982, I think it was, to the 2600, just before the gaming crash. But there was it was a really simple little machine that really established everything that we took for granted in console gaming for an awfully long time after that, up until the development of the CD. You had the games cartridge that slotted into the front of it. That didn't change for the next almost 25 years. They were still using console cartridges up until the Nintendo 64 in the late 90s, early 2000s. Even Evercade now today still uses console cartridges, and as we've just spoken of, they're still manufacturing console cartridges. In a sense, it's the same as an SD card. You just put it in there. It's got a bit of information on it. 2 K's worth of information, 2 kilobytes of information that they could use on an 8-bit processor made by MOS, MOS, which was micros. Oh, I forgot what MOS stands for. MOS Technologies. I'm looking it up now. It's going to bother me the whole way through, so I may as well get it out of the way right now, because I should have had this down beforehand. MOS Technologies stands for MOS Technologies. Good. Thanks, Google. Thanks. Great. Anyway, it had a simple little processor in it. It had 128 bytes of RAM. It ran at 1.19 megahertz, which I suppose was really fast at the time. It could take... could it take 2 or 4 joysticks? I think it could take 4 joysticks when it first came out.
Metal
version.
oxide semiconductor.
Nice one, thank you. I wouldn't have got that in the month of Sundays. But yeah, it could take any number of cartridges, and there were various different versions of the Atari 2600 released over the years, where they made smaller versions like the Junior, and then the larger versions that came along, the Woody version, which is one of the, I think that's the most famous one that they put out, that had a sort of wood veneer to it. Sears did a version of it as well that they pumped out into shops around about 1975, actually, with Pong on it. But Atari easily wiped the board of the competition, because there was competition back then as well. You had Mattel doing the Intellivision and Coleco doing the ColecoVision, which were 2 very similar style consoles, and there would be arguments in the schoolyard as to which was better. Bit like you had with the Nintendo, or the Sega and the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, and the Amstrad and the Spectrum, and all those sorts of things. Which is the better console, or which is the better platform to have? That's always happened over the years, isn't it wonderful? PlayStation versus Xbox. But I had the Atari 2600 Junior. I remember finding it in my hometown. There was a shop called The Exchange on the High Street. And I went in with my brother one day, and he was either buying or trading or selling a guitar. I can't remember what it was he was doing, but I noticed it on the shelves, and it was at a point around about 1989 or 1990 when I didn't have a computer. It was before I got a Mega Drive. It was after my Amstrad blew up, and my dad had a PC that I wasn't allowed to touch because the Amstrad blew up. So I had to... I was looking at this Atari 2600 Junior on the shelf for a £5, £5, and I thought, ooh, I could afford that. They'll never let me buy it. My parents will never let me buy that. But I could afford it. And I went away and I hummed and hawed over it, and eventually I went down one Saturday afternoon and I picked it up, and I took it back to the house, and I had to sneak it in, and I hid it, up in an old wardrobe that was built into the wall at the bottom of that, and waited for my parents to go out. I think it took about 3 days until the coast was clear and I could take this downstairs and hook it up to the TV, and then realised that I couldn't hook it up to the TV. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know what went into what. It seemed like something was missing. I must have been about 12 or 13 at the time. Yeah. So it was just before I had a bit more sense about how these things worked. Maybe I was a wee bit younger. Yeah, maybe it was 88 or so. So it might have been 10. I don't know. I can't remember. But I couldn't go to anyone to say, can you help me set this up? There seems to be something missing. I couldn't go to someone and say, I've been sold something that might not work. And there's pieces missing from it. So, I've fiddled around with it for a while. The parents came home and I took it all away and hid it again. And it was like, shit, I have to wait a week or something like that before, I have to get school over. I can't really do it after school. I've got a mum who works, or who's at home, and my dad's out working all the time. So, it's not easy. But yeah, I never ever got that working. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know where it went. It just sort of disappeared eventually. But I've never played it, and I don't know if it ever worked. But it sat there for so many years, hidden. Do you ever have one?
No, and all the aforementioned really is a bit lost to me, I'm afraid, because I was just, as I've said before, at that time I wasn't into gaming at all. Later on I got into Nintendo stuff. But in the middle bit there, I was just, I had a PC in 1985 or something, or 86, and I started doing gaming on that. So these consoles were, until Nintendo came along for me, and the Game Boy, and incidentally, I also hid my Game Boy. I was
Right.
married and adult at the time, but I knew I wasn't. I shouldn't be spending the family money on a Game Boy, and so I hid it. And funnily enough, I used to go and play it in the loft in the attic, because the attic was a space where we'd made to actually use instead of just being storage. And I used to go up the ladder and go and get the Game Boy out and make sure the volume wasn't too loud. So that my wife at the time didn't suss that I'd spent however much money on this Game Boy. But yeah, as I've said before, it was all Nintendo with me, and before that PC, and before that ping pong on my black and white telly.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I do think it was an interesting time, because there was no real regulation, and Atari allowed really bad things to come out, and there was the whole gaming market crash arrived. I think it was because it was such a niche area, but they were selling millions of these. Whenever two very poor games arrived, people kind of bailed on it, and that caused the whole crash. There was Pac-Man that came along, and it wasn't up to standards.
Yeah.
It was a poor translation of the coin-op, or coin-op, and the E.T. whenever it came along, those were two games that everybody wanted to have: the biggest hit movie and the biggest arcade seller. And whenever those two turned out to be absolute garbage, people turned, and that single-handedly caused the video game crash of, was it 83? And urban myths that Atari went and bought back, or took every copy of E.T. and dumped them and buried them in Nevada, which I think has turned out to be, it turned out to be true, if memory serves. But yeah, it all went into landfill, and everything had to restructure, and Nintendo and then Sega were able to walk in and kind of just gloss over everything that Atari had built up. And Atari very quickly became a lesser thought of entity in that market. The Atari 5200 came along after the 2600, and it was crap. and then the 7800 came along, and it was a much better console, but still not up to spec or up to snuff against the Nintendo Famicom or the Entertainment System or the Sega Master System. But yeah, they're lovely little consoles, and I think Atari have done well over the years on the name of it. They've been able to do the flashback consoles, which I think there was about 5 or 6 of those, which had another collection of games in each of them, and then being able to relicense them out to other bits of hardware has seen a bit of retro infusion. With the likes of Evercade, and out on, I think there was an Atari collection on the Mega Drive, and then again on the Xbox, and then the PlayStation, and they're still very relevant now, and I think people do like them out of curiosity, whilst I can't imagine too many people sit down and play. They wouldn't sit down and play Space Invaders or Millipede for hours on end. I'm sure there are some weirdos that like to do that. I'm only kidding, weirdos. You're not that weird. But there aren't people who really sort of would get so involved in it to the extent that there was. It is just more of a flirtation with what came before, maybe showing your kids of what you grew up with. And I know I've done that with my son, and he's like, "Really? You had to play this kind of rubbish?" I'm like, "No, it's not rubbish.
Yeah.
This is different. This was amazing. This was groundbreaking when it came out."
Yeah.
Well, certainly E.T. wasn't, but Space Invaders was.
Yeah, I can remember playing Tetris for just hours on end and being completely fulfilled with it. And when I've played Tetris these days, 1 or 2 goes, and that's it. You've had enough. It's not at all engaging now. So very similar, I think. One thing I noticed here was the introductory price of $189, which they've made equivalent to today's money, and they reckon that in 2022 it would have been $920. So in real terms, no wonder we were hiding these things, because in terms of real money, it would be like spending nearly £1,000 now, and no wonder you get told off.
Yeah, and even just commenting on the fact that new game that's come out, Save Mary, is $60.
Yeah.
Whenever the cartridges came along, they were $30 or something a piece. For Space Invaders. Imagine paying $30 for Space Invaders today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really odd, isn't it? How the value of things shifts in our brains, and I'm sure that those figures are not entirely accurate, but it gives you an idea, doesn't it?
It does, and it makes you think that whenever you're setting down money for a game, like I remember looking at Starfield when it was first coming out, because that's the most recent game that I've purchased. There's the deluxe digital edition or something like that. That's £80 and then there's a version of it that incorporates a smartwatch that's £260, and I was like, that's ridiculous amount of money to pay for a game. Yeah. But then people did pay that. I remember paying £30 for a game on the Sega Game Gear in the late 90s, and that would probably be about £60 now,
if not more. Yeah, definitely more. So yeah, as a part of your household expenditure at the time, it would have been significant. So yeah, definitely. But going and buying a Game Boy for me in 1980, whatever it was, 1989, I think. That would have paid for a whole bunch of stuff that I was depriving the household of by just being very, very selfish and then hiding it. And
then you walk around the house going, dun, 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 dun. They're like, where does that tune come from? I haven't heard that.
I'm not sure. Can't remember.
Oh, it's the new Carnation Street theme tune.
Yeah.
All right, bargain basement where things are cheap. And we're going to start off with the perfect starter. This is the U Perfect.
Me perfect?
Monitor. Yeah, well, no, you're far from perfect. as am I. You're a bit more perfect than me, that's for sure. But the UPerfect portable monitor, which is a 15.6-inch portable monitor, which is 1920 by 1080, full HD IPS USB Type-C monitor with a standard HDMI, Type-C, OTG or on the go, and VESA holes, which are always nice. I like a good VESA hole on the device. Sorry, don't know where that came from. Has been reduced in price. It has dropped by 25% from £160 down to £119.98. But hold the horses. There's yet another voucher that can be added to this of £30, bringing the price down to, that's right folks, £89.98, which is pretty significant for a 15.6-inch portable monitor. And you might be thinking, I bet this is absolute garbage. Well, to be honest, there does seem to be an awful lot of reviews, and they read like they're actually written by real people, not AI, and they're getting pretty good reviews. Screen is clear for web surfing, and it's decent enough, and there's pictures that people have of it on the desktop and on the kitchen table. So I kind of believe that this is actually quite good, especially for the money.
Do you know,
so if you're in the market for one, you might get
I think
one.
I've got a rebadged version of this up in a cupboard somewhere. And the reason I think that, unless everyone started doing this, is that it's got that pen hole in it in the bottom left-hand corner. So if you see it's got the hole, and you put a pen in there or a pencil or anything, and it makes it stand up without having to have the stand around it. And mine has got that. And if it is a rebadged version of the one I've got, which I bought some years ago, I mean, the screen might be much better now, but the only complaint I had about it was that it's not very bright. You put it on maximum brightness, and you still it's nothing like a proper powered screen, But it certainly can, could do for a travelling office or whatever you're doing with it. I don't know. But as I say, they might be better now.
Are you sure that's a pen hole and it's not for attaching to your keys?
Oh, what?
It's a key ring hole. It's not
Is
a
it?
pen hole. No, I did as a pen hole. I'm just being silly.
Stop being silly, will you? Anyway, yeah, that's a really good price, because mine was certainly more than that.
Well, there's also actually a listing, I didn't notice this, for an 18.5-inch variant that's currently unavailable, but it looks big.
Yeah.
What size is yours?
Yeah,
15?
it's the same as that, 15.6. And it's made by some unpronounceable name. It's just rebadged Chinese stuff. But I have...
Right.
Eh?
Okay.
I thought you found out the name of it. But UPerfect has got a good reputation. UPerfect make devices like the Next Dock, for example, because I've seen them being reviewed, and the reviewer, Juan Carlos Bagnell, he's into these UPerfect things, and he compares them with the Next Docks. Not this screen, because this is just a standalone screen, but I think they also make keyboarded devices like Next Docks as well.
I'm just having a look at all there's now. Yeah, they've got a lot. There's one that's even cheaper again. 13.3 inches, only £110. Ooh. Right, okay.
Rest your case.
Thank you very much.
Now, Windows 11 Pro, for those that want to upgrade from Windows 11 or Windows 10 if their hardware will allow it, you can get for $29.97 if you leap now. It looks like it's probably a deal that's not going to last very long, but 84% off. So, yeah, if you want a version of Pro, then, that's really cheap price to get it and install it, and Fanny's your aunt.
Yeah. Well, that's just an OEM version, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Grand.
It's still...
Grand.
I'm just checking now. Yeah, it's still for sale at the moment.
Okay. Well, moving on to the next one, which is getting a bit of heat here, is the Ocoopa, OCOOPA, Hand warmers.
Yay!
It says plural here. It says hand warmers, but I think there's only one item in the box. Rechargeable, 10,000 milliamp hour battery. That has 3 levels of heat, and it's an electric hand warmer. That's a USB body warmer. It's good for camping, they say, and all that kind of stuff. I'm guessing that it's good for cold weather. This is a smartly heated device that is of a particular size that will fit nicely into your pocket, and also you can get it in your hand and it'll be warm. Put it between your two hands and you'll not drop it quite as easily. There's no sharp edges. It's all kind of nicely rounded. It also can charge your phone as well, because the battery is quite large, not huge but quite large. And it's just something that you can take with you and keep your hands warm and your pockets warm, or you stick it on the front of your trousers and keep your tackle warm.
Dirty boy. A crotch warmer.
Well, sometimes that might need happening. And it looks kind of cool. One person says, beware, there's only one hand warmer, and that's why I felt like mentioning at the top. It does say the Okupa hand warmers, but there's only one in the box, and it's £30 normally, but there's currently a £7 voucher on it, and that takes it down to $22.99.
Very nice.
So it might be something worthwhile for the winter.
No need for a bed partner. Actually, Aidan would like this because he's always got cold hands. I'll put it onto whatever works, and then he can have a look at it. So good shout.
That sounds like you've spoken from experience there. He's always got cold hands.
He's got this setup on his desk where he's got this heating device under his desk, pipes coming up round the back of the desk into where his keyboard is, so that his hands are getting the air from the hot air coming from this heater. There's something wrong with his hands, and he's got really, really cold hands. So he'll probably like this.
Does his heart work? Does it pump his blood around his body?
Now and again, yeah.
Or is there a blockage in the wrist?
Did I put this one on? The Anker Prime Power Bank? Oh yeah, I think I did.
You did.
I think I put it on here because it was the lowest price I'd seen it at $89.99. And this is the one that's the 200-watt one that we spoke about a couple of shows ago, which is the one that Steve Litchfield got, but with brass knobs on, because it just made it better and bigger and more powerful. And now this is even cheaper than the one he got. So, Steve, you need to get rid of your old hat one that's only about 3 months old and buy a new one, because it's more powerful, and it has all the lovely little display on the front as well, and all the business, and USB-A and two USB-Cs and 20,000 milliamp hours of power bank in it. But it's the 200-watt output that's the interesting bit. So you can charge, pretty much whatever you like with that, apart from the heating system in your nuclear bunker.
But it does work. This works with the little charger thing, the landing pad, the charge pad that they put out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You can buy it with it. Yeah,
you're right. I forgot about that. You're quite right. Yeah. Mind you, it has
nice.
Been cheaper. Oh no, it hasn't. If you take into account the 31%, I think it's the cheapest it's been. Anyway, there you go. Nice one.
Excellent. Well, it actually doesn't ship to Northern Ireland, so crap deal. Bad. Next up is the Poco, the X5 5G Black. 8GB RAM version with 256 gigabytes of storage, a 6.67-inch 120Hz Full HD Plus AMOLED display, running the Snapdragon 695, the 49 megapixel triple AI camera. That's triple with two P's. A 5,000 milliamp hour battery and NFC. It comes with a 2-year warranty off Amazon currently, and it's been dropped in price by 20% from £319 down to £256 and 64 pence. I'm not getting any buy it or monthly installments on that, which is a bit of a shame. It would be nice had maybe Ted you have, but
yeah, I've got
I'm not.
I've got £51.33 for 5 months.
Oh, right, okay.
It's interesting how they've suddenly introduced... When they were selling this before AI was all the buzz, they didn't have AI camera in there. No, they just stick AI in front of the word camera. Be up with the buzz. Oh yeah, of course it's an AI camera.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, they might AI could stand for all in one, and it's just A1 as opposed to an I. It's not an uppercase I; it's just a 1.
These Poco devices are really good value, as you can't deny. The Snapdragon 695. I've got a couple of devices with that on it now, and it performs absolutely fine for those that are not horribly, hugely demanding, like using AI camera setups. And it's you just got to be okay with using Xiaomi's front end and stuff, which I'm sure many people are, and you can get used to it if you're not. And lastly, the Nokia T10, which we bought for my mum last year for full price, is now 89 quid. And it is very good. I mean, it's a bit of a granny and kids device, to be honest. This is a little one. This is the 8-inch one. But my mum loves it. She uses it all the time, every day. It's on the sofa next to her, and she says to me quite often, this was a really good buy, because she's not hugely demanding with a tablet, and she doesn't care that it's got 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of storage. And this has been 130 quid, and it's now 89.99. So that was my last bargain.
Yes, I'm actually going to quickly mention one here without I'm interested. Oh no, it's changed. I've been looking at the likes of the Jackery solar panels plus the battery thing, and I was thinking maybe if I was to get a teeny tiny small one, I can see whether or not I would use it and how much I would use it and how much I kind of feel that this isn't delivering. So I was having a browse around Amazon, and I came across the Soyond portable power station. I'll stick a link in so that you can have a look at it too. That'd probably be a good idea, wouldn't it? And it's a little portable power station with a 7,500 milliamp hour solar generator with a solar panel and a mini generator for outdoor camping, emergency fishing, travel, party, trip, and it's got a USB DC output. And I was thinking, getting something like that and sticking it in the shed, but I am not actually now noticing that it's got a USB and an SD card thing on the front, because it's got an MP3 player and FM built into it, so it might just be some sort of gimmicky rubbish. But I just thought, for the idea of being able to have a solar panel that hooks up to a solar generator for £65 could just help you out of a wee bit of a squeak here and there, and you can keep this topped up until such time as your power goes down and you need to go and plug this into the freezer to give yourself an extra 5 minutes to get the freezer sorted
More like
out.
your router. Keep your router.
Well, that too, yeah. But if the power's out, the local the masts and things like that should be out. Anyway, but
that's the only time I've ever used
this.
My Anchor 521. Is exactly then. So the masts clearly have not been down, but the local power has been.
Yeah.
Did you say this is not available? Because I'm seeing it as available.
Well, no, it was available for me to purchase, but now it's saying that it won't because of my location.
I see, right.
Because there's a bloody battery in it.
Yeah.
And those bloody Brexiteers. Yeah. So, I won't be buying this, but I had thought, £64 is quite good just for that little bit of experimentation.
It's got a radio in it.
See what the solar panel's like. I
know.
know.
It looks like good fun, actually, doesn't it?
It does. I can't imagine that the speaker's going to be... I don't know if it even has a speaker, but it's got a torch built into the side. It is just really... It's not even a big power bank, because it's only 7,500 milliamp hours.
No.
But it's the fact that it hooks up to a solar panel, and you can keep it alive during the summer, and it'll maybe keep a light on in the shed or something like that.
I don't see the radio mentioned at all. Is it an FM radio? I can't. There's no.
It says FM radio in front of it. MP3 and FM.
Very nice. That's very cute. I do agree. A lot of fun.
Well, I don't know. I'll probably burn the shed down or something like that. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in at the very end there because I've been considering. And if anyone has any experience of something like that or live in a country where they can actually experience it, do let me know. Right. So that about brings us to the end of the show.
A record-breaking show. We've never gone over 2.5 hours before. This is at new ground. We've got to go for 3 hours now.
Oh, flipping heck. Well, it's flipping heck. It's 2:15 as well. Right, okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can find me on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I have my Mastodon as well, and at garethmiles.com, spelt the same way I always spell my name. Ted, where can they find you?
They can find me at tedsalmon.com. Links to all I do there. Audio podcasts galore, and MeWe group links. Everything is there. tedsalmon.com. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that. It's at paypal.me/tedsalmon. Thank you.
And other than that, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time to mess up your weekend. Take care now.
Bye.